There's a burning desire deep from within to delight in the Lord with all that I am. There's a flame of passion burning from the depths of my soul to find the Father's heartbeat wherever I would go.
So this week the question is about anger. Specifically, it was, how do I stop being angry? Now, there are some things about doing that, some anger management issues, but I think that first I want to address not being angry in the first place. In 1 James, I believe it's verse 19, he says, "Be quick to listen, be slow to speak, and slow to anger. For the wrath of man does not accomplish the righteousness of God." We're to be slow to anger. We're to take things that would make us angry and react to them slowly. Do not be quick to let anger dominate you. And so as we kind of look at that, just understand that anger is an emotion. And emotions are things that simply inform us about our circumstances. Emotions can be wrong. Okay, emotions can be trained. I have a little girl. That's what we do with her. We're not just teaching her behavior, but as she learns behavior, whenever she gets mad because we won't let her have chocolate late at night, she's learning that we do love her, but she doesn't need the chocolate. And over time, she will not get angry when we say no to chocolate. And so we're training her emotions, and you can train your own emotions, right? A small child is scared of the dark because they think there are things in the dark that will harm them. Shadows look scary. As you get older, you understand there's nothing in the dark. Your mind, your heart has been trained to not be fearful of the dark. And emotions can be ignored. Okay, you're in a situation where an emotion comes up. Maybe you're in the middle of class and that person you have a crush on catches your eyes and smiles at you, right? You have all kinds of emotion welling up, but you're in the middle of a test. Okay, you can't act on it. You got to zip it and focus on your test. So we can control our emotions. You're at practice and you completely mess up a play and the coach yells at you. You're mad at the coach. You don't like what he just said, but you know what? You need to practice. So you zip it and you get in there and you practice. There's all kinds of situations where we ignore our feelings. Now I want to be clear, we're not repressing them, we're dismissing them. We say, yes, I feel that way, but let's put it aside. And so emotions can be ignored. Ultimately, it's going to be our reasoning that chooses our actions. There is what I've read referred to as stimulus and response. You have that moment when something stimulates you, it stirs up an emotion, and then you have your response to that emotion. But in between there's a thought process that goes on in your head. It might be small, it might be long, but you think on what that emotion's telling you and then you act on it. Feeling an emotion, feeling angry, is not a sin. Okay? Just because you get mad does not mean you're sinning. You haven't done anything yet. That emotion is just trying to tell you something about your circumstances. Now, if you fail to train your anger, if you fail to train your emotions about when you get angry, that's just unwise, because then you have this constant thing gnawing at you saying you're angry, you're angry, you're angry. And as we all know, the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. That thing that's always jumping out there wanting your attention, that's what you're going to start to give attention to. And so you need to train your anger to not flare up, train your temper to not flare up in inappropriate or not right ways. Acting on your anger is not necessarily sinful. Okay, it says, in your anger, do not sin. So we can act while angry, but not in a sinful manner. Jesus, he walks into the temple in John, I believe it's chapter 2, and he sees the money changers and the businessmen and everything, and he gets consumed with passion for God. He's angry, but he's consumed by passion for God, and he goes and he turns over the tables and he makes a whip and he whips at people. But it's not the anger that's the driving force, it's his love for and passion for God. And so we see it's possible to act in your anger, but not in a sinful manner. It's whenever you let the anger take over and dominate your action and dictate your action that it becomes sin. Because as our verse in James said, the wrath of man does not bring about the righteousness of God. Okay, but the real question, how do you deal with your anger? One, train your emotions. Before the situation ever happens to be angry, train your emotions to get angry at things that are justifiable that you should be angry. Whenever you do get angry, remember, an emotion is just informing you about your situation. Think about the anger. Why are you angry? Why is this making you mad? What is your anger telling you? And think about if it is true. Or even if it is true, would it be wise to act on? Someone does something to you, your anger wells up and you just feel like punching them in the face. Okay, maybe what they did was wrong. Maybe your anger is justifiable and that you have been mistreated. But would it be the wise course of action to punch them in the face? Most likely not. And so you evaluate, why am I angry? Is this anger right? Is it justified? But even if it is justified, should I act on this anger? But ultimately, there's all kinds of things that can be said about finding good channels, good ways to focus your anger and redirect that passion into something productive. I do not want to dwell on that. I don't want to focus on behavior modification. There's all kinds of sources for that. We can put you in touch. Ultimately, what it comes down to as a follower of Christ is a focus on an understanding of grace and love. John 3:16, God so loved the world, he gave his only son so that whoever believed would have everlasting life. He loved us enough to sacrifice, to bring us back to himself. As Romans 5:8 says, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't wait for us to be worth it. He didn't wait for us to deserve it. He has extended us grace. A few verses later in Romans, it mentions that while we were enemies of God, he saved us. God had every right justifiably to be angry and wrathful and enraged at our rebellion and our sin and our disobedience, but instead he acts in love and he directs that wrath towards Jesus. And that grace and that love that he has given us, we are commanded to turn around and extend towards other people. And as we see that grace at work in our own life and we allow our hearts to be burdened, to be broken by how undeserved we were, how we did not deserve that grace, that sacrifice. Why would the God of the universe die for me? I am so not worth it. But he did. And that same grace, that person who has done that thing to me, that anger that I'm feeling, yes, they might deserve that anger. But it's not about what they deserve, it's about what they don't. They do not deserve grace, they do not deserve mercy, they do not deserve my forgiveness, but neither did I. And God gave it to me anyway, and so I'm going to turn around and extend that same grace that I didn't deserve. I'm going to extend that grace to those people. And I'm going to let the gospel of Jesus Christ and the knowledge that God loved me enough to forgive me, I'm going to let it transform that anger that that person might rightfully deserve into the mercy and grace and forgiveness and love that I have been shown and now will show to them.
There's a revolution rising in our hearts and in our souls to rise above the normal, a generation bold. There's a hunger in our being to stand for what is right, in purity and passion, no matter what the price. And all of me, come within and take me